Okay, let's discuss the acronym. So, what does LGBTQIP2SAA stands for?
Oh, a lot. So let's
Is
go
there
through it.
yeah, is there an update?
There's probably a lot. So the first part of it is LGBT, L for lesbian. That would, and you'll see the acronyms start to contradict each other as we go through.
Okay.
L for lesbian. Lesbian would refer to women who are exclusively attracted to women. Lesbian comes from the word lesbos, which is an island in ancient Greece where there's a lot of mythology about women in relationships with other women. Lesbianism is described in the Bible in Romans chapter 1. Paul condemns women giving up relations with men and seeking women, and men doing the same thing with men. And this is helpful because some people say Paul is only condemning pederasty, which is adult men with little boys, but he's clearly not, because he condemns lesbianism, and that always involved adults. It didn't involve little girls. So he was definitely concerned about both. Oh. G would be gay. While gay can refer to a wide range of things in this context, like it can just refer to anyone with a homosexual identity. Gay would traditionally refer just to men who are exclusively attracted to men. And the word gay seems to go back early 20th century. Like there's terms like a gay cat, like someone who's kind of promiscuous, and then it eventually identified men who are exclusively attracted to men. B would be bisexual, and so that would be the idea of someone who is attracted to both men and women. And however, and there's something with these, so these are the three orientations: lesbian, gay, or bisexual. Like, who are you sexually attracted to?
Okay.
There's a growing one now, the P in LGBTQIA2SP. The P later on in the acronym is pansexual, and that's seeming more so to replace bisexual, because it identifies you're attracted to everyone, even people who don't, not necessarily to every single person, but you don't care what a person's sex is, really, pansexual. So that would mean you could be attracted to someone who claims they don't have any gender at all.
Didn't it phase out the bisexual part?
Bisexual is still common, but I think pansexual is getting more common in its place.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay. So those would be the major orientations. The rest of the acronym seems to focus more on behavior.
Okay.
But also some elements of... there's also some... that's behavior, LG, B, or P. The rest seem to deal with identity, whether you're a man, woman, or something else.
Okay.
So T would be transgender. Used to be called transsexual. So there's a big debate here in the U.S., like sex versus gender. Gender seems to be taking over. That's just what we mean by men and women, and gender is whether you think of yourself as a man or a woman. So we have transgender would be someone whose sense of whether they're a man or a woman differs from their biological sex. So although here in the U.S., they want you to say, instead of biological sex, sex assigned at birth, as if it was some kind of subjective thing. So transgender is that, let's say you're a transgender woman would be a biological man who identifies as a woman. A transgender man would be a biological woman who identifies as a man. So we have problems where you have people say, well, even though if you're a biological man, you claim to be a woman, does that mean that you can go into a locker room, into a bathroom, you can be placed in a prison, even though you have male genitalia with other female inmates? And it becomes absurd. The transgender one, you should just tell people, look, here's the ultimate stopper for me. What is a man and what is a woman? What's the difference between them? People who defend transgender ideology are incapable of answering those questions. They say a man is just anyone who claims to be a man, and a woman is anyone who claims to be a woman. Okay?
You posted recently on Twitter asking that question.
That's right.
Yeah,
because there was a hashtag on Twitter, trans men are men. Now, if they were, you wouldn't need to say trans men. You just call them men.
Yeah.
To say, well, look, what is a man? What is a woman? And people can't do that. Whereas I would say a man is a member of the human species ordered towards being a father, ordered towards impregnation. A woman is a member of the species ordered towards motherhood or gestation, being pregnant. Doesn't mean doesn't mean you're not a man if you don't become a biological father, or a woman is not a woman if she's not a mother. I'm saying you're biologically ordered towards that end.
Yes. So
that
you're
is.
so you're saying, even though, let's say, if you have problems on your sexual
Fertility,
reproduction, fertility,
right.
you're still a man if you're ordered, but you cannot like get anyone pregnant because of the
You're still a man,
problems.
yeah. Much the same. Now, a woman can't get anybody pregnant, but we wouldn't say that she has fertility issues. We'd just say she's a woman. Okay, so that's why. And the transgender stuff, it's making a lot of headway. Though I think a lot of people are starting to now see they don't want to go along with its radical conclusions, because one thing that comes up is you now that even though it's popular in Hollywood and government and all these other places, you have transgender people who will say, hey, I'm going to go on this dating website and meet someone, and they claim to be a woman, but they're actually a man. And the other people say, well, no, I'm not attracted to transgender women because you're actually a man. I'm attracted to women. And this claim, it runs headlong into the idea of sexual orientation being attraction to bodies, not to gender identities. So the left kind of eats itself on that one.
We stopped at transgender, so T, LGBT.
Right.
Then there's Q. There's Q for queer.
Yeah, queer is kind of a umbrella term that can emphasize a lot of identities that don't go to the norm. This could include things like being gender non-binary, neither man nor woman, or being both, or being lesbian or gay. It's sort of an umbrella term.
It is.
And so this thing with children, and a lot of children's studies have shown those who identify as transgender, the majority of them don't continue to identify in that way as they become adults. And when you do puberty blockers and you do surgical reassignments, it's very dangerous for these individuals. A good book, get it while you can, I've got it behind me here, is When Harry Became Sally by Ryan Anderson. It's a great book on transgender issues. I'd highly recommend. It is an issue that is growing that we need to absolutely be able to confront.
Yeah, I have that book. I read it. It's really definitive on the issue, and it was banned in Amazon.
It was, yeah. It can be. I'm glad I have a paperback copy, but like get one straight from the publisher or from whoever you can.
Does those kinds of like banning of books, it might discourage publishers to publish more on the subject, and people.
Well, yeah, they'll be like, well, no, Amazon won't carry the book, so it's not profitable, so we won't do it. It's really trying to stifle freedom of speech and freedom of expression, and they want to do that because when you have an honest conversation about this issue, about the issue, it's the same thing as honest conversation about abortion. You show that it's absurd, but people don't want to have those conversations, or they just go to emotions like, oh, you hate this person. Like, no, I don't hate this person. Just as I don't, in fact, I show love towards them by not feeding into a delusion. Just the same as someone who says they're anorexic. Someone who's anorexic who says they're overweight. I'm not gonna indulge them and say, yeah, you should go on a diet if they're dangerously underweight. I'm going to tell them that their sense of their self is misperceived and so mistaken, and they need to be helped through that.
So now let's go to the others part, intersex, for instance. So the I.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. So let's briefly round out the acronym. But the other identities, you have questioning, which is you're not sure what you are.
Okay.
I is for intersex. Intersex is when you don't know. When you're born with ambiguous chromosomes or body parts, so you're not sure if a person is a man or a woman. They might have both parts. But honestly, in the vast, vast majority of intersex cases, we know it's either a man with chromosomal or anatomical abnormalities or a woman with those things. We can still determine. There's a tiny, tiny minority of cases where we might not be sure. Very, very tiny, like a handful. But that doesn't disprove the overwhelming majority of the time when we do know that someone's a man or someone's a woman. The other cases, let's see, 2S is two-spirit. It's kind of a transgender identity for Native Americans, which is ironic that people will say if you're not Native American, you can't be Two-Spirit. So unless you're biologically Native American, you can't say that. But you can say you're a woman even if you're not biologically a woman. I just find that to be that's another inconsistency right there. Then the other A is for asexual, just you lack sexual attraction. And that's not a bad thing. Maybe you're not called to marriage. It's not everyone has the same kind of attractions. That in and of itself is not bad or not bad to act upon if you're living a single and celibate life.
Okay. Then the last A is allies.
Yeah, allies is just would be people who are not any of these things but who agree with them. And I think the vast majority of people who defend LGBT ideology would fall into that framework. They are attracted to people of the opposite sex. They are not transgender, but they have bought into this and want to defend it. So,
Come to think of it, including allies to the acronym made them like they're not a minority anymore, because they have big allies in the industry.
Of course. Yeah. It's not like, we only have a few allies and that's it. It's almost like everybody in the halls of power, in universities, government, big corporations. It's really those Christians who want to live in accord with their faith. They're the ones who are facing discrimination.
How do we treat our brothers and sisters in the movement with charity without compromising our faith? Because
I think what we have to do, we just have to listen, and we have to say, look, you are a valuable son or daughter made in the image and likeness of God, and God has a plan for you. He may have given you a cross to carry, like he's given all of us a cross to carry, but it's only in God that you will find that perfect and surpassing joy. And in order to do that, we have to live ordered lives that God wants for us. And if we think about it for a minute, we could see these sexual identities and behaviors are disordered. We can say, well, look, what is a man? What is a woman? What is sex for? We have to ask these questions. The other side can't answer, but we can give answers to these questions. And I think that once people see the wholeness that comes to that, and also the beauty of marriages, that the life-giving love that exists in the marital act, in the sacrament of matrimony, that is an example we can share. So we should always be kind, but we should also point out where we disagree and where the other person is living a life not in accord with God's plan for him or her.
Because the dilemma is it's more comfortable to be just silent about it and just go with the flow, especially when you're in a company that enforces diversity and inclusion as an initiative. You might get fired from your job for opposing too much. So
exactly.
Yeah, Trent, we've reached the end of the program. I'd like to thank you for accepting the invite.
Of course, thank you.
You're more popular here in the Philippines than you know. Every Catholic faith defender I talk to read at least one of your books.
Well, how fun. We'll tell them I said hi, and maybe one day I'll get to come out to the Philippines for a tour. That might be a lot of fun.
Yeah.